Welcome back. So now our next vocabulary word we're going to talk about is a plane. Right? So let's get rid of that. Sorry about that. In your notes under plane, I'd like you to write 2 dimensions. And let's go over the definition of a plane. I have the most important words highlighted in red. You certainly can write more, but please write the words that are in red. So plane in geometry, a plane has no thickness but extends in a shape that looks like a tabletop or parallelogram. Even though the diagram of a plane has edges, you must remember that the plane has no boundaries. A plane is named by a single letter, like plane M, or by 3 non-collinear points, like plane ABC. And we'll talk about that in the next portion. 2 points or lines that lie on the same plane are coplanar. All right, so we're going to talk about all of that a little bit more as we talk about a plane. In your notes for diagram, I'd like you to draw the diagram that's shown. That diagram is showing you that we have a flat surface and it's going to extend in all the directions, right? So often we just kind of draw it as a parallelogram or maybe a rectangle looking thing, 4-sided figure, and we're just going to show that in every direction that just keeps on going. So it's like a flat surface that goes on forever. We have 2 ways to name a plane, and I'd like you to include the diagrams that go with it because they show the 2 ways, as well as the words in red. So we have method number 1. We can name a plane by either a letter, which is not a point. So in picture number 1 there, we see plane P. Right, so planes like lines have an infinite number of points, but maybe we're not interested in the points on the plane, and so we don't write them in. Right? But we want a way to talk about the plane. So maybe we're just going to label it with a single letter. So we can do that, so long as we don't include a point. So a dot by that letter, right? So here we see that's plane P. That's not a point. There's no dot, so P is not a point. Right? So it's very important, if you don't see a dot, that is not a point. It's just a way to name the plane. We can also use 3 non-collinear points. Right? Make sure, I want you to underline the words 3 and non-collinear. So don't tell me 4, don't tell me 2. Tell me 3, because I need 3. 3 points that are not in a line are going to show 2 dimensions. So that's why it has to be non-collinear. Right? So there's an infinite number of points on a line. Right? If I have 3 points and they're all on the same line, that isn't showing 2 dimensions. We want to make sure we show 2 dimensions. So that's why we can't use 3 points that are on a line. Right? So 3 points is all we need to show a plane. Right? We just have to make sure they're not all on the same line. Okay? And so make sure you add the ways to how you can name a plane in your notes and the 2 diagrams that show those 2 ways. Let's look at a few more things related to planes. All right, so let's talk about collinear before we talk about coplanar. All right, so collinear points, we've learned, are points that lie in the same line. So for instance, F, G, and H are on that line right there. J, G, and K are also 3 collinear points. They're on this line right here. Oops. Now, I made a little boo-boo. These dotted parts here, I almost forgot to show my dotted parts. Got carried away drawing a line. That shows that that line is not on the plane, right? So this plane looks like maybe it's like an angle here. Right? And so the line here is intersecting one time, intersecting at J, and that's it. That's the only point from line JK here that is on the plane that's shown. Right? So if you have trouble visualizing it, because it looks like it's in, it's 2 dimensions, it's a flat smartboard I'm using here to draw it. Imagine you have an index card and you stick a pencil through that index card. Right? So that the index card is the plane that's shown. The pencil you just stuck through the index card is line JK. Right? It's intersecting at one point wherever the pencil goes through the index card, and then it goes through the other side. Right? That's what that picture is showing there. Right? So we have 2 lines that are shown in the diagram, right? And we have points that are shown. Right? And so those points on each of those 2 lines are collinear. Now if I take points that are from different lines that aren't all on the same line, okay? For instance, F, G, and H. Right? So G is on the same line as point J, and G is on the same line as point H, but J, G, and H together are not on the same line. They're on two different lines. So we call those three non-collinear points. F, G, H, and I are coplanar. Notice they're all on the plane that's drawn. F, G, H, and J are also coplanar, but the plane is not drawn. So I could have another plane that is intersecting the first plane. It's intersecting at that line, the line FH there, the green line, right? And it also includes point J. Right? That would be another plane that I could draw. Right? And so F, G, H, and J, they would all be on the same plane. I would try and draw it, but it never looks like it's supposed to. I just can't seem to make 3 dimensions look like 2 dimensions. So I'll show you in class what that would look like using a couple index cards. Right? And then we can see how we could have a plane that intersects, includes lines J, F, G, and H that are all on the same plane. It will also look at some planes that we can see how we can different ways we can draw planes in a moment using some pictures of a rectangular prism. That's a little easier for me to draw in 3 dimensions on a 2-dimensional surface. Right? So we talked about what collinear is. Let's talk about what coplanar is and non-coplanar is. Right? So if you look in your notes, you have the word coplanar points. Right? So under the word coplanar points, write in that that is 2 dimensions. Right? So plane refers to 2 dimensions. Coplanar points are points that lie on the same plane. Right? So that's the what you're going to write in for a definition. For the diagram, right, you could include the picture here. Let's get rid of that for now. Right, so you could include this picture here and say that F, G, H, and I are coplanar points. And actually, you can include this one diagram for 2 definitions. So you can draw the picture once. And you can take over the space in the diagram section for non-coplanar points. Right? So that will be our diagram for both coplanar and non-coplanar. Right? So F, G, and H are coplanar in addition to being collinear. F, G, I, and K, right? We included all those points, right? They would be non-coplanar, non-linear, and non-coplanar. Let's talk about what does non-coplanar mean. Right? So for non-coplanar, oh, I forgot. One other thing this is for collinear. Under naming, so we've got diagram, we got that diagram that we're going to use for coplanar and non-coplanar. For naming, and this is for coplanar. I have a lot on this page. Write in any 3 collinear points can name a plane. Right? Just as a little reminder, right, how we name planes. Now let's talk about non-coplanar. Right? So for the under non-coplanar in your notes, for the number of dimensions, put in it is 3 dimensions. Right? So non-coplanar is 3 dimensions. Because now, if we're not all on the same plane, now we got more than one plane. So now we're going to be in 3 dimensions. For the definition, for non-coplanar, it's 4 more points that do not lie on the same plane. Any 3 points are coplanar. That's why we have to use 4 points. So non-coplanar is 4 or more points that do not lie on the same plane. Remember, non-collinear was 3 or more points that do not lie on the same line. Non-coplanar, 4 more points that do not lie on the same plane. So let's add to our our diagram here. We'll use the same diagram, so you don't have to draw it twice, just draw it once, and and you can include it in the same, have it overlap. You can draw it bigger now. So F, G, H, and I are non-coplanar or coplanar points. F, G, I, and K are non-coplanar points. Right? They take up more than one plane. And there's no naming for that. Right? So we just have our definition for non-coplanar and our diagram, and we're just going to add from the diagram for coplanar. Right, so now we've looked at what a plane is, how to name a plane. We've looked at coplanar, non-coplanar. We've got a couple more things related to planes in this podcast. In your notes, you have a postulate. Any 3 points are always coplanar. For the definition, I want you to write in, you can always draw a plane through any 3 points. Right? That's kind of explaining it. Right, so for our diagram, and we're going to use this for any 3, and we actually could have used this one for non-coplanar and coplanar. Kind of forgot it was on this page. All right, so for our diagram, we're not going to need the naming, but for the diagram, and so you can just use both spaces. You can use the space for diagram and naming for this picture next to postulate. Any 3 points are always coplanar, and our diagram here we have points K, L, M, and N here on a plane. O and T are on a line that intersects that plane. And then R is not a point, it's just a label for the plane. Right? So in your diagram, next to your diagram, I want you to write in that K, L, M, N are coplanar. They're on the same plane. K, L, M, N, and O are non-coplanar, because now I'm going in 2 different directions. Right? I've got the points that are on this flat surface, and now I've got a point above it. Right? There's no way to connect them all in one single plane. And a little review of naming planes, because students really have trouble with this. So I really want to make sure you can get this. You cannot name the plane. So first of all, LMN, because 3 collinear points cannot name a plane. Right? Collinear points are 1 dimension. Plane is 2 dimensions. Right? So I want you to write that in your notes. By the way, if you run out of space in any part of your notes, you can use a sticky note and just put it right over on top of that, and that'll give you a little extra space, because you can always move the sticky note to see what's underneath it. The other thing you cannot name this plane is OTL, because they're not all on plane R. And you can name this plane plane R. Right? So this is also, you can call this plane R. I could call this plane K, plane L, LMK. Right? I just can't name it. And so K there, by the way, is both on the plane and on the line. All right, so the line there intersects the plane right at point K there. Right, so we can name it with 3 non-collinear points, and we could also call that plane R. This will be, by the way, a test question. I'm telling you now so that you have a chance to learn this and know how to name a plane. Right, so just as a reminder, planes can be named by any 3 non-collinear points. I could call this plane KMN, plane LKM, or plane KNL. The order those points are in does not matter. Or by a single letter, such as point R, because they all name the same plane. Coplanar points are points that lie on the same plane. So for instance, points K, M, and O are coplanar. Points O, K, L, and M are non-coplanar. Right? Because you can draw a plane to contain any 3 points. So if I say 3 points are non-coplanar, I'm wrong. Right? I can always, even if you don't see a plane, we can draw a plane. I can't draw it very well, but we can have a plane that would connect any 3 points. Right? not necessarily any 4 points, right? If they're going in 2 different directions, then I can't connect them, right? So a little bit there about planes. One last concept in this podcast, and that is intersection of a plane, right? In your notes, it is one dimension, right? Because it's a line, right? So in your notes, write that. And here, you don't know how long it took me to try to draw 2 planes that look like 2 planes intersecting. Underneath the in your notes where it says intersection of a plane, write in it's one dimension. The definition: if 2 planes intersect, they intersect along exactly one line. For your diagram, do the best you can to draw what you see there. We have 2 planes intersecting, and then we're going to draw in that blue line. And that blue line is line AB. I don't know what happened to my little dots there. Let's make them nice and clear. Points A and B there. For naming, planes intersect at line AB. Right? So the intersection of the 2 planes shown above is shown by line AB. As another example, picture the intersection of 4 walls in a room with the ceiling and the floor. You can imagine a line lying along the intersection of these planes. So if you look at your wall and you look at the ceiling, where the ceiling and the wall intersects, they intersect in a line. All right, so postulate, we've gotten just a little problem to go over together. So through any 3 points, non-collinear points, there is exactly 1 plane. I can connect any 3 points I want. All right. So we have some here. Now I don't have 1 written here, so let's do 1 here. All right. So for instance, let's do these ones. All right. So points X, W, B, and A, they are coplanar. The reason that they have to be coplanar, right, this is a rectangular prism. We have a line there, line XW. We have a line here, line AB. Right? And these 2 lines, I'm going to show you a symbol. We'll learn more about this symbol when we talk about parallel lines. These 2 lines are parallel. Right? So lines AB and WX, those are parallel lines. And so if we have points on 2 parallel lines, they have to be coplanar because we're only looking at, so all the points on one line are collinear, right, and on the other line are collinear. And since those points, those 2 lines are parallel to one another, right, they're always going the exact same direction. They're remaining the exact same distance apart, right? And so we can always draw a plane connecting 2 parallel lines. To help us here, instead of having my planes be infinite, I've decided to make my planes finite, and we've created a rectangular prism, right? So these are like the lines are infinite and line segments are finite. I decided to make these planes just be finite planes so that it was easier for you to picture. And again, if you have any trouble picturing this, I have 3-dimensional models, and I can show you with a 3-dimensional model. All right, so all of these would be right angles, right? It's a rectangle. They're all rectangles, right? So they're all going to meet at right angles. So points X, W, B, and A are all going to be, let me finish my thought there, are coplanar. We have other parallel lines though. So these 2 lines here, UW and did I say UW? UY and AW. Those are parallel lines as well, right? And so if we have points on those parallel lines, they would be coplanar, right? So that means that points A, W, U, and y are coplanar. We have some more parallel lines. All right, so here line VZ, and looks like I keep not finishing my thought here, and AW are parallel. I'm talking, but I'm not writing. So in our last picture, UY and AW are parallel. Therefore, points AW, U, and Y are coplanar. Lines VZ and line AW are parallel. And therefore, V, Z, A, and W are coplanar. And lastly, that's right in the color I haven't used, green, UV and AB, line UV and line AB are parallel. So therefore, U, V, my U and V look an awful lot alike. A and B are coplanar. What happened to my R? So I can also show you with some three-dimensional models. Right? But I hope this all made sense, learning about planes, coplanar, intersection of planes, non-coplanar, and I'll have you answer a few questions at the end of this. Right? And if you have any questions, of course, ask in class. And I think, oh, I forgot. I have one more page. I thought this was the last page. That's the last page. One more page. One more page. I should have checked. One more page before I end this video. So this is a little bit longer. Right? So we want to name the following points. A point not in plane HIE. Right? So there's plane HIE. Who's not included? Why, that's, I mean, not right in blue. After all, I have lots of blue there. That's right in green. Point G. Point G is not in that plane. A plane not in plane GIE. And down here, this right here, this one is GIE. So we can see that includes that line there, line IE. It includes point G, but it does not include point H. Point H is not in that plane. 2 points in both planes. Right? Well, where those planes intersect, they intersect in a line. They intersect in that line right there. And so there are 2 points that are shown. There's an infinite number of points on that line, but 2 are shown on that line, and that is points I and point E. 2 points not on line EI. Right? Well, the 2 points that aren't on that line are the other 2 points shown, so that would be point G and point H. Right? So in a little practice here, we've reviewed planar, coplanar, intersection of planes, right? A little bit with non-coplanar. Right? So thanks for watching the podcast, right? And let me know if you have any questions. Bye for now.